The azalea has 2 seasons of beauty, and that's why it makes it such a great bonsai. But to achieve those 2 seasons, you need to do more than just let your bonsai grow. So today I'm going to show you how to achieve both of those glorious seasons. I'm going to help you to understand why that is such a problem to the 2nd season, what to do with those flowers now they're fading, what to do to achieve back budding. We'll discuss best time to repot, spring or summer post hard prune. In fact, we'll be talking about hard pruning as well. We'll touch on fertilizer and some care tips on how to keep your azalea leaves nice and bright and green. I'll cover cuttings. I'll talk about development of your younger 2 to 3 year old cutting stock. I'll even talk about wiring. Loads of stuff to go through. And if you love azalea, you love flowers, but you want them to look good all year round, then this is definitely something you want to watch. Hi, it's Xavier, and welcome to my bonsai retreat, and welcome to what I think is going to be a really fun and exciting episode. We're going to enjoy the blooms on not only this azalea, but several others that I need to look at. But I think first of all, just take a moment to enjoy this incredible bloom, because I got this azalea back in 2017. It was half the size, and it produced wonderful flowers once. And then for many other years, it would produce 2 or 3 at different places. Never has it produced this consistent, almost, well, I'd say 100% coverage of beautiful pink blooms. And I'm over the moon. Who wouldn't want that or something like it flowering in their garden? Now, when you first see your Satsuki azalea in your bonsai shop or wherever, you see those beautiful flowers, you hit buy, it comes back to you, you look at it, you see the blooms, some of them are probably still on the tree, and then they fall, and you confidently put the tree away into a corner, you probably feed it, and don't really do very much more to it. All you're doing is waiting for the same time next year to see all those blooms come out. And then, the following year, well, maybe not so many blooms come out. The year after that, a few less. And then we go, well, certainly as beginners, into, can I call it panic mode? And we all know what panic mode brings along. First of all, it brings along pruning. Then it brings along, well, maybe I should fertilize it. And before you know it, you're mixing up soils, you're finding yourself pots, and you're trying to repot it. And you normally do it all in 1 year. And then, of course, what we find is a year on, it's looking even worse, or it's only producing 1, maybe 2 flowers, and we start scouring the internet. There are so many YouTube videos, there is so much contra advice about how to deal with your azaleas. Well, do you know what? I'm going to do it starting off in the summer season, work our way through the seasons, and tell you exactly how I, in the bonsai retreat, achieve, well, the results you've just seen. Because do you know what? This one has already had its flowers, and you can see right now there are loads of dead and dying flowers. And I think that's an appropriate place to start. We're midsummer. It's the 22nd, 23rd of June. Now is an ideal time to start the process to turn this from a lovely flowering azalea bonsai into a spectacular bonsai without flowers that has convincing branch structure. And I'll show you exactly how to achieve that. But first of all, let's have a look at those flowers, because they need to go. Now this Satsuki azalea was purchased at the same time as the one you've just seen. In fact, all my azaleas that are grown were bought in 2017. I think it cost me £15. And, you know, they all come with flaws often when you get them from the cheap imports, similar to what you might find with your Chinese elms and with your Trident maples. And so with this one, I've actually tried to find a way around what was a big fault, and I'm trying to build a cascade of sorts with it, and it's developing along. But to do that, I'm going to need to do some major pruning and cutting, because I'm going to want to achieve back budding further along on branches that are overly long. We'll talk about that in a minute. But first of all, we need to take our fisherman away. And we need to have a look at each of these flowers. We've got one left. we're going to remove all the flowers. Why am I going to remove the flowers? Well, I've enjoyed the beauty, but the one thing that does happen with these is once those flowers go, you're left with a little seed cone. And in that, it's going to develop loads of seeds which are going to be spread out, and we don't want the energy going into the seed cones. So we're going to remove them. In fact, if we get in close to this one, so the flowers normally come away quite easily. You've got this stem here, and if you look into the flower, or what's left of it, you'll see that you've got this bulbous area here. This is what's now going to develop if you let it. What we need to do is either with our fingers carefully pluck that out, or a very sharp pair of scissors, go to the base and remove it, leaving just the old leaves. Again, with the one beautiful flower that we do have there, go in close, look at the base and cut. And that's going to stop any development or energy being wasted building seeds. So I'm going to go around now and do this right around, ensuring all those pods are out. I will also take the opportunity to remove any leaves that are yellowing or redding. Don't worry about those, but we'll talk more about prevention of discoloration of leaves later in the video. But I'll show you what I mean right now. You'll get a variation of brown spotting or yellows or browns, or eventually it'll turn an entirely red yellow color and drop off. Every year I've had them do this, and there's nothing to worry about it. There are a few simple things to do, but as I said, we'll talk about that more in a moment. And probably worth noting, I'll say right now, you can wire your Satsuki Azalea, but the best time to do it is when the branches are still young and quite supple. As they get older, they get very, very much harder, and wire becomes much more difficult to apply. So we've removed the flowers, which takes us on to step 2, which is actually hard pruning. There's only really one good reason I find to do hard pruning on your azaleas, and actually this one isn't the best one to demonstrate that principle. Whereas this one is absolutely perfect for demonstrating why I would hard prune. The only thing I do need to do is get rid of those blooms. So I keep saying the word hard prune, and you sit there going, why? Why would you want to hard prune that? And it's simple, the same reason you'd want to hard prune or prune back any tree. You're looking to try and build a convincing and realistic branch structure. To do that, they normally have to taper over different parts of the tree. The other thing you also want to avoid doing is getting very, very, very long lengths that have got no growth on them. Now, the azalea will back bud onto that with lots of healthy growth coming up, but if we look at this, the next set of shoots that are going to develop from here. So we're going to get a growth coming right out here. We're never going to cover that up unless we can try and encourage the tree to do something about it. Now, the great thing about azalea, basally dominant, but they will, from bare wood, produce back buds. Quite a lot of them as well. In fact, I'll show you exactly what they do. This cutting here, about a month ago, everything got severely burnt off, lost all the leaves, and I thought it was going to die. Well, have a look and see what the response was. It sent up multiple. When I say multiple, each little shoot had between 20 and 30 little buds, and they're all growing in close there. That is what we're trying to achieve by cutting something a lot higher up, so we can bring the growth a lot closer in. So with this one, you can see the canopy is quite packed and tight in here. That's quite close in. This needs to have probably branches coming out, or shoots coming out here. To do that really is as easy as that. You can go back as far as you like, and honestly, I've done this many times, year after year. And in fact, do you know what? I'll show you one I did it to last year. This one was one of my earliest and most attractive flowering azaleas. It had big blooms out here, branches out here, and it was absolutely wonderful. And then it really started to decline, and the main reasons for that related to the soil and fungal issues. We'll talk about that in a short minute. But what I did is I cut back hard. You know, there's big cuts here, here. All of these places have been cut hard, and all of this new growth in here, close in, has come as a result of doing those hard prunes. Every single branch, except for one, there was one, and even that now, a year later, these were cut last year, so don't ever give up and think, oh my gosh, it's not going to bud. In fact, have a look, I'll prove it to you. Hopefully you can see, right in there, 1, 2, there's one on the other side as well. There's one actually also behind it. These will be allowed to grow out. There's another one that's come here. As I say, this was cut this time last year and actually didn't produce any buds until earlier this year, when I've got these ones come up. Because what I'm aiming to achieve is to get shorter and shorter internodals between branches, so that when all of these new fresh groups of shoots come up, they're tightly packed, which means when the flowers come out, you're going to have a dense coverage of flowers rather than having a long gangly line where there's nothing. Now for me this is quite tight, but if you look inwards, you've actually got quite a long here. That's quite a long length for the apical region. That's quite a long length for the apical region. In comparison to here, where I did a hard prune, that actually encouraged that bud there to take. So though some of you may disagree, and again, this is all an art, this is up to our own individual tastes, I'm actually now going to do something what would be seen to be quite radical and cut all of these back, because I want to bring it in tighter. I want to use those. This is already coming up and above anyway. So yeah, so we'll see over the next 3 to 4 months, and I'll come back and demonstrate it with you exactly how that back budding shows. While we're doing that, we can still clean up, get rid of stuff we don't want. We still maintain the same principles. It's probably worth looking actually at what you would get from a shoot, because this is also one of the other things you can do probably anytime you actually see it. If you have a look in close, when it produces a shoot, it actually produces normally 1, 2, 3, up to 5 individual little shoots, which will each present a flower. If this is the terminal part at the end of your canopy, then you may well want, 2, 3, 4 shoots, because all of them will produce lovely flowers. It's right at the top. It gives you that tight packed canopy. But if you're looking to develop further structure on beyond it, then we do the same thing that we would always do. We have a look and we remove anything that doesn't give us a nice sort of angle like that. It's all relative to where it is on the tree, of course. And of course the aim of all that is to achieve something more in line with this, although this is far from perfect. Much tighter. We've got lots of shoots coming from lower in, further out, extending. We haven't got too many structures on this where they're a great length, except for, well, I did a little short last week, and I used this example here where I actually cut some of the longer branches back. And if you look here, we've actually got quite a long length. And it's a tough decision sometimes, because you feel, I've got to bring this tree back in. Will it affect next year's flowering? Truthfully, no. If you prune now and then don't prune again, then you're probably going to be fine, because any of the new shoots that come out, they will produce the flowers for the following year. So long your tree's healthy and you've done the right stuff to the soil in terms of fertiliser and nutrients. More of that in a minute, so don't go away. But again, this often comes down to personal preference, whether are you happy with this sort of more leggy approach. I quite like this, so I may not do much pruning. I may try and bring some of these back. Personal preference, but the principle remains the same. The reason why we prune back these branches, as I've done here, is because we want to try and get growth further back. Now, while I'm removing all the flowers from this lovely azalea, should we talk briefly about repotting spring or summer? Because many of you will already be saying, I bet now what'll happen is I'm going to do a repot on these, because you'll notice they're all still in training pots. Well, I've done repots in spring, I've done repots in summer. I've got both of them actually. If you have a look at my Azalea playlist or my flowering bonsai playlist, you'll see that I've done both. And to be fair, both have been effective and successful. I haven't noticed any big difference. And in view of that, and the fact that the summer repot cycle is based on what happens, say, in Japan or in the Asian areas, where you'll get more humid monsoonal type conditions, which means you'll get that humid growth that really helps these after a repot. But we tend not to. I mean, right now we're going through a mini heat wave. It means we've got 3 days in a row that are over 30 degrees. And I could probably this year quite happily repot it right now. And if you were going to do a repot right now, now is it. Remove the flowers. You could do the hard prune, but I probably wouldn't do the hard prune. I'd just remove the flowers and then find a new pot and repot it. What would I repot it in? Well, I've tried different things, and lots of people say they've got their own compositions and their own soil makeups. But generally, it's an acidic loving shrub, and for that purpose I use Kanuma. And as I say, I have tried other stuff, and to be fair, they do best when they're in the Kanuma. So all of my azaleas are in Kanuma. And if you've got actually anything else that's been successful, whack it down in the comments right now, because that could be of help to other people, because Kanuma can be a little bit expensive. It's also a really good idea to make sure you don't cramp the shrub into a too small pot. This pot is actually quite large, and they like to have a little bit of room because they have quite fine roots, very delicate roots, as I'm sure many of you have seen, and these can get baked really easily in harsh sun. So to that end, it's also a very good idea to put them into an area that's actually quite shady. I keep mine in, they get morning sun, and then the afternoon they're pretty shaded. The other thing is they hate being waterlogged, so you've got to get the balance right. The Kanuma works really well for that purpose, and the good thing about Kanuma is it starts off really dry, dusky yellow when it's drying out. So if you poke your fingers around, you can quickly see if it's got too dry down beneath. So I find I water these once a day, free draining mix, and that's normally fine. So that's now without the flowers, and you know, I look at it and I can see taper, I can see movement, I can see branch structure. We've got the foliage on top, and for me it actually looks fairly attractive now. But the only thing this needs is a new pot, and this brings me down to probably my preferred time to repot. I am actually happy to do the repot in the early spring. The roots, everything has the maximum amount of strength in the base. They're ready to go, and I just find we just don't get enough of a differential or results in doing a summer prune. I think we're much more hit and miss in terms of getting a consistent period of warm weather for it to be of benefit. So I will always do my repots for my Satsuki azaleas or my dwarf azaleas or rhododendrons, same thing, in the spring. And the other reason I'll do that is because it means if it's produced well and it's showing itself healthy in the summer, we get to this time, I still feel confident that I can then do the hard pruning. So this will actually find itself a new pot in 2027. So if you want to see what pot I put this in fact, if you've got suggestions, because I'm terrible at colour schemes and pot matching, if you've got suggestions of what sort of pot would match this, whack that in the comments. That's probably more important. But I've left a few of the blooms on the top there. They hadn't opened up, so you know what, I don't need to take them all off. That's certainly 97% of the flowers have gone. All the energy will now go into producing the backbirds and the future shoots for 2027. And I have actually just this little quarter area here reduced everything back, so it will be interesting to see how that responds. So when you watch the 2027 repot, you'll be able to see whether or not that did actually do exactly what I wanted it to, which is probably a great reason to hit subscribe, bell notifications. It helps me And guess what? It's free, so it's easy for you to do. So before we finish off with a little chat about cuttings, because they're fantastic for cuttings right now, I thought I'd talk to you about just the general care. Soil we know is Canuma. They are acidic lover. I would definitely recommend you get yourself one of those little 6 or 7 pound pH readers just to make sure the pH is in the right range. Hopefully right now there's the right ranges coming up. That's the most important thing. Many of you who've watched my videos before will know the biggest concern I've had is the poor leaf colour and the poor response to flowering. Most of you already say, you know, make sure you don't use hard water, so don't use the hose. Always, always, always use fresh water that's come from, rainwater that's come from the sky or something like that. This year they've been fully rainwatered and I saw an immediate 100% change for the positive. I also use once a year some just common bath Epsom salts, and this just sprinkled across the top of the soil. It's ideal for your feet, but also for your azalea. Also, sequestered iron. Often the issue with the leaves not greening up well enough can be an iron deficiency. Also, if you have a look at your pH meter, it'll tell you whether it's heading towards alkalinity or not. I've used the sequestered iron solution a couple of times before the flowering. Apart from that, do you know what? I have no problems just using a balanced, slow release fertiliser, which again, I'll sprinkle around every couple of weeks. Certainly you can look at getting acid loving fertilizers, slow release feeds. I know they're available in most of your general purpose garden centres. Adam of Notion Bonsai, he's produced a product. It's Azalea Bonsai feed, which is a 10 nitrogen, 6 and 6, potassium and sugar. It's not sugar, of course it's not, but yeah, 10-6-6 mix. And the only thing I'd say about that is the higher the nitrogen, obviously that's going to produce a really nice green flush. It's great for foliage. But if you're feeding it too heavily, you're definitely going to have a detrimental effect on its flowering or indeed with any of the fruiting species. But I'm probably going to put this on in the autumn time. Which now brings us on to the final subject, which is propagation. And I know people have done successful air layers with azalea. And in terms of cuttings, well, say something like that, which we've just removed. Again, this sort of size, all you need is something like that, and dip it straight into a common potting mix. I use 50% vermiculite, 50% potting mix most of the time, or 50% of my small grain bonsai mix leftovers. That normally better results come when I do it in spring. I'll often go around and have a look at some of the growth I just don't want. Spring is the best time, but I've also done summer cuttings about this sort of time and put them in a propagator so they are covered and get a bit of humidity, and normally you'll produce something like that quite happily. And indeed this is an example of just one of a set of what, there's about 12-15 cuttings that are in there. They're about 3 years old now, so really all that leaves now is for me to finish taking and deadheading and dealing with this one. And bearing in mind we've just spoken about cuttings, this is entirely made from cuttings that I took from that big azalea that had all the lovely big large flowers on it. All of these are cuttings from my garden. My pruning with this, well, this is when it is different, and I imagine it's the same for anyone who's got a developing 2-3 year old cutting. I'm not going to be cutting anything back right now. I'm going to be letting these continue to grow. I want these trunks to actually thicken probably twice the size, and it's going to take a long time to do that because I've got it in quite a shallow container. But the only way it's going to happen is if I don't prune anything back. Oh, wiring. I did apply wire to this and I will put more wire on. I don't like wiring in the middle of summer because that can be a difficult time for many of our species. I will wait until the late autumn because I'm probably going to try and bring these a bit further down and get those pads more pronounced upwards. It takes a long time for it to take effect, and it may well be that I'll eventually have to give up on that and just hard prune back and get new shoots to create this cascade effect. Now hopefully that's covered absolutely everything really you want to know about. 1, keeping your Satsuki azaleas or azaleas healthy. 2, creating a believable, realistic branch structure from trunk to tip. how to get great flowers, what to use to get nice green growth, and when to repot. I'll say again, I think you could do summer and spring, but I will always go for spring because that gives me the opportunity to do the hard prune now if it's healthy. Apart from that, you can prune off growth you don't like whenever you like. Anyway, I hope you agree. I think your azaleas need to be enjoyed all of the year round, not just for those 3 weeks when they start to bloom. Apart from that, if you want to learn more about this very interesting and unique Etruscan style azalea penjig, which was part of the $50 challenge that a number of the bonsai creators went into, including Nigel Saunders, then that's the video. Otherwise, happy bonsai and God bless. Cheers.